My whole life has been weird. I don't know why I write this. I guess in some of my moments of clarity my mind realizes so many things that are so wrong and so strange that I go into anxiety attacks. I write this here so I can share everything that has happened in my 20 years of life. I need someone to read and empathize with me, but above all I need to know if something I've been experiencing all my life is normal. I know that normality is subjective. It is dizzying how many strange customs we have been raised within our homes. Ways of being and acting that for us and our family are completely normal while for the rest of society they are strange things. And it often happens that we act as if our little abnormality were completely common, unaware that it is not generally accepted as commonplace. In my case, as well as in the case of my 3 siblings, the number of small abnormalities that we have accepted since our childhood is simply absurd. No, a normal father does not live lying in bed. No, your father denying you have a mother is not normal. No, early morning visits from large groups of people at home were not normal. No, for them to stay for days in our living room, not saying a word, just standing there, not even flinching, not eating, not drinking, not even trying to communicate with a glance, was not normal. No. It was not normal for my brothers not to exist. And no, it was definitely not normal for our father to speak only and exclusively whispering things in my ear, saying that family secrets were something that everyone had. I hate him, I will always hate him, and I will die hating him. Because even though the bastard has finally stopped talking to me, I will always continue with this fatal insomnia, unable to dream, unable to sleep. Chaos. That's all I can remember. My house was huge, a mansion of enormous antiquity on the shores of the Mediterranean, with 7 floors and many rooms where dozens of people had previously lived, including workers and domestic service. But by the time my father was born, the mansion was a gloomy and lonely building, on the outskirts of a now secondary city. The strangeness of the house was tremendously worse in 1998, when my nauseating father inherited the place. He covered every window in the house with large cloths, made sure to close all the places so that one could go outside, and stocked up with everything he needed to survive without getting out of bed. From my earliest memories, nothing makes sense. It was just my 3 sisters and I, without a mother, without a grandfather, without a grandmother, without uncles or any other trusted family member, except of course my father in his bedroom. We moved stealthily through the house, in the darkness, with some rays of light to which we quickly became accustomed. We used to sleep in the attic or the guest room, making sure to close all the doors tightly. Sometimes we simply rested at night, but other times we slept for more than 10 hours, going to bed at noon. Sometimes we spent entire weeks without sleeping, other times entire months sleeping. We walked carefully throughout the house, tiptoeing so as not to make noise. I don't have any memory of going to school, but I am sure there was a private teacher who taught us. I don't remember his name or his face. He was dark, or blonde, tall or short. I do not know. But he wasn't the only person in my home. We constantly saw men and women moving back and forth around my house, sometimes ignoring us as if we didn't exist, sometimes feeding us as if they were our mothers, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, but always moving. There was nothing fixed, nothing silent. At night there were always drums, very primitive melodic rhythms, as well as choral songs, as extremely beautiful as they were disturbing. During the day, however, in random places in the mansion, out-of-tune instruments, songs, screams, dishes breaking, furniture falling, things making noise, making it impossible to sleep, sounded. I remember people with very white skin, impossibly white, almost glowing. Very black men levitating, moving in the darkness at dozens of kilometers per hour. Women giving birth in our bathtubs. The brown house cat that always asked us confusing questions. An elegantly dressed man, with a gray hat, who always tried to take my older brother away. An animalistic being that moved quickly, staining everything in its path. A thin woman who moved along the walls like a spider. I also remember the meals. When I was a child I always ate in the main room, a large, long room with a huge table. I don't remember what things we ate, but I do remember that each time there were different people with us. On special occasions like Christmas Grandma made a wonderful stew, but every year the food would rot before I could eat a bite. As we grew up everything became murkier, darker and more chaotic. Sometimes we woke up in seas of thick black water, with all the furniture floating around the room. Others of us woke up hanging from the ceiling. We never slept in our old beds anymore, we simply woke up in random places in the house. Sometimes we stumbled upon body members lying on the ground, bloodless, as if they were mere objects. A nose, an ear, a leg, random parts scattered anywhere. The man in the trench coat and gray hat running while he shouted my older brother's name. Dozens of Siamese people with big pots of food going to serve the table nowhere. Animals and people who chased us frantically to hunt us down as a joke. Raucous laughter coming from the fireplace. My 8 sisters absolutely ignoring me for an entire year. A red room made of whispers that our father always forbade us to enter. Families of Asian people who lived in the kitchen clapping non-stop for weeks before disappearing. Our private Latin teacher devouring the blackboard piece by piece until it disappears. The stairs to the basement always had a gravitational force that made physical pressure to attract you towards them. Groups of children with impossible deformities running frantically in a circle holding hands. Once I remember seeing my sister riding a lion, while the lion cried inconsolably as if she were a little child, making my sister cry in turn. Human faces on some walls. Strange things stuffed inside the closets like books, stones, wood, plasma, seawater or lynxes. Teacups that weren't human. The man in the suit and gray hat eating my brother alive. Phones ringing throughout the house. The brown cat with an angry face, insulting me and harassing me. Groups of adults laughing, running and jumping like children from the basement to the attic. Terribly heavy rains in the guest room. Fires that devoured entire rooms and that suddenly went out in a second. Grotesque men who stood in the doorway, blocking our exit for days on end while they watched us with indescribable rage. And my father? Sometimes talking to me, whispering things in my ears while being rooms away. But always sleeping there, the damned bastard, always lying in his bed, with his eyes closed, dreaming everything. Always threatening to wake up and annihilate my entire existence the moment he opens one of his eyelids. Always reminding me that my 20 years of life are nothing more than a nap.